Major moves from the likes of Nike, Clinique, Sotheby's, and Bear, yes, the paint company, have made it abundantly clear that Web3 is more than just a buzz term devouring your LinkedIn feed as neophytes try to establish themselves as experts and consultants. Sure, those of us working and building in the space may feel like NFTs and blockchain-powered apps are everywhere, but the truth is, most people still don't understand any of it. Education is improving, but we've got a long way to go from the billion-dollar conglomerates down to the end user. Now, with such a chasm of comprehension and a trough of talent, launching a successful NFT or Web3 initiative can be a challenge with significant risk, but fret not. This video outlines the major risk of adopting an NFT or Web3 strategy, along with several solutions for mitigating those potential risks. Now, to be clear, these observations come from spending dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of hours consulting with some of the largest brands, companies, artists, and agencies in the world about their Web3 strategies. For that reason, this list is mainly intended for well-funded organizations with a global audience committed to moving forward. This is not for anyone looking for convincing. Nevertheless, many of these suggestions will apply to smaller businesses and entrepreneurs as well. So, all that said, let's get into it. Now, the first risk is bad PR. In general, there is a persistent negative sentiment surrounding NFTs, Web3, and the broader digital asset industry. Often the issue relates to unfounded narratives about environmental damage or scams. Either way, your brand's public reputation may find itself sullied by association. So the solution is, first, you must recognize that being early to anything carries the burden of misunderstanding and skepticism. Now, this is especially true of technology. The path forward is education and communication within the organization first, and then to the outside world. So acknowledge raised concerns, identify the most pressing ones, if there are any, investigate their validity, assess viable solutions, present your findings, and then communicate why you feel comfortable moving forward and steps being taken to mitigate or eliminate core concerns. So for instance, if there's a concern about environmental impact, choosing to mint on an alternative like the Palm Network makes much more sense than going on ETH mainnet. If there's confusion or doubt around the motivation of the collection or activation, transparent communication about the intent and vision can go a long way. Now, the second concern or risk, it's a cash grab. Now, well-intentioned as your initiative may be, somebody's going to view it as another quick cash grab powered by the latest market trend. With so many rushed, ill-conceived projects out there, can you blame them for being weary? So the solution is, don't think about the money, at least not out the gate. Instead of constricting your creativity through the tunnel vision of cost, revenues, margins, think about the reason an NFT is needed at all, its unique advantages, and how it'll provide more value over time than the cost of admission. Now, if you use early excitement and energy to ideate and dream free from worries about the accounting, you're much more likely to discover an angle that is both invigorating, innovative, and genuinely suited for the NFT or Web3 form factor. Once you've landed on your best ideas, it becomes much easier to strategize and develop the rollout in a way that doesn't lead to over or under committing. Next potential risk, it's too exclusive. Now, given the technical hurdles typically associated with NFT projects and the broader Web3 ecosystem, some users may feel alienated by the very premise of your project. If you then build in features or benefits that can only be accessed by holders of your NFT, even more people may start to feel a bit marginalized. So the solution, you can all but eliminate the technical complexity with the right tools and partners. For instance, you can launch your collection through a dedicated site that removes the need for using self-custody wallets like MetaMask, or even the need for using crypto for payments. Now, a great example of this is the Batman Cowl collection that Palm NFT Studio built in collaboration with DC. Users were able to create an account using their email addresses and could purchase their cows with fiat via credit cards. Now, regarding the whole members-only perks and benefits, just look at it as a modern iteration of a subscription. Sure, if you've never offered a subscription tier to your audience, some may not love it. But alas, it seems to be the way most business models are heading. And that's not an NFT or a Web3 specific problem or trend. So as long as you aren't barring access to core features or utility behind an egregious price tag, this shouldn't really be an issue. Now, next potential risk. It's too expensive. This is pretty straightforward, so let's just go ahead and jump straight into the solution. When it comes to pricing NFTs, it is imperative that you approach this with an open mind, well-informed perspective, and managed expectations. For many, the idea of spending money on a digital item that's not a commonly used software or app, it's a bit foreign. As such, it's crucial that you consider the value on offer relative to price. For instance, let's say Netflix decided to issue 2 million NFTs to serve as lifetime subscriptions to their service. What should they charge? Now, if we assume it's normally $10 a month, that's $120 a year. Let's guess that the average person sticks around for 6 years, that's $660 over that time frame. With those numbers in mind, it stands to reason that charging $600 for the NFT would be a solid deal, and $500 would be even better. With those figures, they'd net between $1 and $1.2 billion in cash. Now, for perspective, they've got around 220 million active subscribers, so this assumes they only reach roughly 1% of their customers. And this doesn't factor in any royalties they would gain from secondary sales. Now, only you know what your customers and clients are used to paying. Thus, you should be able to gauge their price sensitivity. As an exercise, you could comb through sales data and determine the average order or spend per transaction for your average customer. If you plan to target specific cohorts within that audience, then do the same thing, but filter the data to assess that target cohort. If you're still unable to arrive at a confident pricing strategy, let the collectors decide. There are a number of tools that allow you to have dynamic pricing that reacts to demand to determine optimal pricing in real time, like Dutch auctions or other price decay models. Now, bear in mind, this is likely to cause more confusion than setting a fixed price. Lastly, I'd suggest you price things in fiat, not in crypto. This tweak alone ensures the cost doesn't fluctuate with market volatility. Next potential risk: internal conflict and opposition. Don't be surprised if you find pushback and resistance arise from inside the ranks. Given the nascency of the sector, many people hold deep ideological opposition to NFTs, crypto, and Web3. The extent of aversion will certainly depend on your industry. Now, for instance, the gaming industry seems particularly anti-NFT, while the fashion and luxury sectors seem increasingly supportive. So how do you handle this? Well, for starters, be sure to double down, quadruple down on education. Videos and content like this are great sources of theoretical education, but be sure to incorporate practical and experiential learning too. Has your team ever purchased an NFT? Have they self-custodied in their own wallet? Ever used an NFT for its utility? It's pretty strange to be a critic of something if you've never participated in it. Now, aside from education, encourage and facilitate a forum for discussion to address feelings with facts. Mind you, this is not an exercise to convince anybody, but rather one to gauge your team's own sentiment and comprehension. This will reveal existing biases, knowledge gaps, capability gaps, as well as who shouldn't work on the initiative. Ultimately, it's the responsibility of leadership to move the project forward. The next potential risk is simply lacking the expertise, the skill, the knowledge, or the ability to execute on this new vertical. Now, you may have decided that you want to move in this direction and make a meaningful splash, but you don't know how to do it. Now, there are two main fixes here. The fastest path forward is to hire genuinely experienced experts and consultants to get a better understanding of the landscape. To make the most of this, consider what you're hoping to achieve and work backwards to identify current gaps. These could be knowledge gaps, a lack of context about the broader Web3 and NFT markets, or more technical considerations related to how you want to execute and deliver your initiative. Just remember, like with most things, you'll want to be specific about who you hire and realistic about what they can offer. If you're looking to learn, that can likely be achieved by hiring 1 or 2 consultants to educate your team. If you're looking for someone to provide a full creative proposal and roadmap, expect a larger team and a higher cost. If you want a platform to be built out, even more so. Now, the other option you have is to spin up a fresh innovation unit dedicated to the segment. This route can still benefit from hiring outside support and collaborators, but positions your organization to flourish in the long run. As team members develop deeper expertise, they'll also establish enduring processes to support a growing commitment and investment into the org's Web3 and NFT verticals. Now, since you stayed all the way to the end, let's throw in a seventh tip as a bonus. Web3 is not Web2. Now, obvious as that may seem, you'd be amazed at how many people don't seem to grasp this. This single misunderstanding is the likely culprit for any failed Web3 initiative led by a Web2 company. Instead of assuming that all the tried and true practices of Web2 naturally translate over to Web3, spend some time unlearning those reflexes and spend even more time learning, using, and contributing to the Web3 ecosystem. When you do, I promise you'll begin to understand why the single most powerful element of this entire sector, the single biggest indication of whether your initiative will thrive or perish, is community. So there you have it. Those are 7 of the top potential risks of launching an NFT collection, along with 7 solutions to those potential risks. Now, if you learned something or found this valuable, please do me a huge favor and comment beneath this video, letting me know what you learned. Leave a like on this video, share this video, and send this to somebody that you know is working on a collection. Maybe they haven't thought about these things. Maybe they find some of these solutions helpful. Until the next time, take care. Be blessed. I'll holla at y'all. Peace.